Hello, everyone. This is Dorie Clark, and we're here with our weekly Newsweek interview show, Better. And our guest this week is Dr. Sharon Melnick. Sharon is the author of a new book. It's called In Your Power. And we're going to be talking today about how to regain control in your professional life and be in your power as a professional, as an employee, as a manager, whatever you are. How can you regain and retain the power that you have? Sharon Melnick, so great to have you here.
Such a delight, Dorie. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here, and welcome to everyone who's tuning in from around the world. Please feel free to type into the chat box and let us know who you are and where you're dialing in from. We want to take your questions for Dr. Sharon Melnick. Now, Sharon, let's start us off. Talk to me about In Your Power. It's a really evocative phrase. Talk to me about what that means exactly. What does it look like? What does it feel like if someone is in their power? And how do we know if we're not?
Thank you. Well, I think many of us these days feel like there's at least one situation in our life, whether it's professionally or personally, where we feel kind of out of our power. And that means that it feels like the other person or the circumstances are determining how it unfolds for us and how we feel inside of us. We feel almost at the mercy of the situation, almost like we're the casualty and not the creator of the situation, right? And one of the ways that you can know if you're kicked out of your power is if it feels more to you like you're a thermometer than a thermostat. So when you're the thermometer, it's more like, your emotional and mental state is kind of going up and down, reacting to the situation. You can get like emotionally hijacked. You feel in a mental swirl. And it almost is like the way that you try to make the situation better makes it worse, or at least perpetuates it. So that's what it's like to be kind of out of your power. And the reason that I wrote the book, In Your Power, is because I think a lot of us feel this. So whether you're a leader who, you just can't get your people to live up to your expectation, or maybe you're a talented, let's say, woman who is overlooked and undervalued, can't, kind of get elevated. Maybe it's someone in your personal life who's just all about them and you just can't, feel that sense of ease with them, is that we can get into this state. And I think a lot of us we're kind of fed up. We're like, I don't want to be made to feel less than, or that I can't control my destiny, you know what I mean? Or kind of have the success that I want. And I think having come through all that we've come through in the world, we're really prioritizing, like, I want to be able to feel good in me and to create the life and the success that I want. And that's what you get from being in your power.
I love it. That sounds like a very compelling value proposition. So we definitely want to learn more. We're here with Dr. Sharon Melnick. You can learn more about her at sharonmelnick.com. Her book is In Your Power. And this is Dorie Clark with our weekly Newsweek interview show, Better. Welcome to everybody. Please feel free to type into the chat box. Let us know who you are, where you're dialing in from. And Sharon, a question that I have. You talk in your book about so-called portals of power, which sounds like a really interesting concept. What is a portal of power, and how can we begin to apply some of this?
Yeah. So in these situations that we're talking about, we can feel powerless, right? So the idea of the 12 power portals is that you have so much more power than you think you do. It's almost like 360 degrees around you in any direction, no matter where you look. If you just enter kind of that chapter, that doorway, there's a whole new way of looking at it, a whole new set of scripts and things that you can do. And this is why, if we continue the analogy, is like, you want to go from being more like the thermometer, where you're reacting and going up and down, and you want to be more like the thermostat. When you're the thermostat, you set the tone. You decide who you are and what you believe about yourself. Like, you have a vision that brings everyone along with you. It's like when you're the thermostat, like, you have so much power. It controls like the air humidity and the motion of the people. And you know what I mean? It like you and this is available to you. So, and I think we'll, be talking about some of these examples. And so the idea of the power portals is like, it's actually, if you could just open your eyes to how much power you have, you would feel like, wow, I never have to suffer like that again.
That sounds incredible. That's great. We're all on it. We've bought in, Sharon Melnick. I love it. Sharon is the author of In Your Power, the new book. This is Dorie Clark with Newsweek's Better interview show. We want to say hi to Karen tuning in from Boston. Victor is in Cameroon. Peter's back from Edinburgh. We've got a LinkedIn friend from New York City. Annette is here from SoCal. Tamara is here from Utah. Kelsey's in Trinidad and Tobago. Rebecca's in Chicagoland. We've got a LinkedIn friend from New Jersey. Lena is in Copenhagen. Masood is in Karachi. Astrid's in London. Ersin is from Turkey, and Alex is from Austria. We're so glad all of you guys are here. Thanks for joining us, and type your questions in for Sharon Melnick. We're talking how to be in your power. So let's get to it. You've been tantalizing us, Sharon. So if you are someone who perhaps is resonating with this, it's like, yeah, okay, I have not been in my power, in fact, at work. What are some of the first steps, the first one or two things that a person could do to begin to right this imbalance and perhaps step more into it?
Yeah, so let's just start with kind of like the basics, right? Is that the very first question that you want to ask in any situation, it's stressful or you feel stuck, is where's my power? And when you ask this question, require yourself to sort out what are the aspects of the situation that you can control. And I call this your 50%. And sort that out, distinguish that from the aspects of the situation you can't control, the other 50%, because literally you are set up by your human evolution biology to focus on what it is that you can't control, right? Because we're always like scanning the environment for threats. So you were set up for this. But if you live your life in that way, you are only kind of living out of your factory settings, and it's going to keep you kind of reacting and feeling like things are out of your control. So you want to focus on what's within your 50%, and you can kind of follow like the golden rule, which is be impeccable for your 50%. So take 100% responsibility for everything that goes on within your 50%. Like that's a really good use of your time, energy, and attention, right? And otherwise you're just leaking your power. So that would be the place to start. And then we can take some examples of like, what are things that you can control? Because I know you're probably thinking to yourself, like, yeah, sounds good, Doc. But like in my situation, no, like you don't understand, like most of the things are not in my control. Yeah, so bring it on.
Love that, Sharon. Thank you. That's so interesting. And we want to say hi to some of our amazing friends joining us from around the world. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. David's in Florida. Janice is in Pittsburgh. Miriam is in Malawi. Carolyn is back from Cary, North Carolina. Rachel is in New Jersey. Pauline is tuning in. We've got a friend from Peru. Hala is in Belgium. Banu is in Beacon, New York. Nicole is in LA. And we love having every single one of you. Now, a question, Sharon, came in from our friend Sushma in India. She wants to know, how conducive is it in the world in its present state to support us being ourselves socially and culturally? And I think what Sushma's pointing to is that often being in your power, I assume you can tell me that it has some kind of overlay with authenticity, with being ourselves, not feeling like we need to cover in some way. But that's not always completely well received, especially if you are in perhaps a rather staid corporate environment. The idea of self-expression or feeling comfortable being yourself may seem like a long ways off. What do you do in that situation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the thing is that it is always within your control to set the criteria and to decide what you feel comfortable showing and what you don't feel comfortable or safe showing, right? So that is within your control. And I think what you want to do in that situation is to really think about, what is the outcome that I want? What are the results that I want from my career? What's the contribution that I want to make? And who do I need to show up as in the service of that? And I think that when you can think about it at the kind of the sweet spot intersection between who you want to be, the best of your strengths and superpowers in conjunction with what the role or the team or the organization or the community needs from you, then you can be intentional. And in any situation where you're concerned about what other people are going to think, or it's not going the way that you want, the moment that you start showing up intentional in this way that you have articulated, you are participating in the interaction on your own terms, in your power. And when you're in your power, that's when you change the power dynamic, because you're no longer kind of giving your power away, being, worrying on a moment to moment basis, like what they're thinking about you and imposing their kind of values on you. And you're saying, this is who I've decided I'm going to show up as. And people resonate with that. Like at a body level, people are like, you know what I mean? I'll have what she's having.
So good. So good. Thank you very much. We're here with Sharon Melnick. She's the author of the new book, In Your Power. You can learn more at SharonMelnick.com. And if you're enjoying this conversation, hit the like button, hit the share button so that your friends and colleagues can benefit from it as well. And Sharon, a question that I have, there are some people out there who, in your power, that sounds good, but they're actually not even really comfortable with power. They may have some serious questions or qualms or reservations about it, and it may feel like some kind of icky thing. Like I don't know. Maybe it's not good for anybody to be in their power. We've seen how power is used sometimes. So if you have somebody who has that mentality, what would you say to them? Is there a way to feel okay about this?
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's where a lot of us start. We might feel uncomfortable with power. So here's the thing, is that when there's a difference between being in power and being in your power. So we have this kind of connotation of power as like a force, it's manipulative, selfish, narcissistic, all these kinds of things. And none of us kind of want to be that. But that's only the case when you're in power, but you're not in your power. That means that you have the means to actually, kind of have effect over people's lives, but you're kind of using them in order to feel good in yourself, right? So what we're talking about here, being in your power. Power comes from the Latin root posse, which means to be able. So being in your power it's about an ability. It's about ability to stay good in you so that when you act, you can do so in a way that is actually gets you the outcome that you want this time, as opposed to like, well, I said something, but nothing happened. And not only for you, but for the good of all. And we're here to redefine it. And, I have so many examples for you. Let me just kind of give you one example of this. So I coached a woman, Keisha, who the very first time that I talked to her, she said, I just can't do it anymore. She was like a moment away from leaving the organization. So her manager was in touch with her, texting 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Her peers, while working hard, kind of a lot of things were falling through the cracks. They were all falling onto her plate. A lot of things in the systems were broken, and it was all, she hadn't had dinner with her husband in a year, and she just was overwhelmed. She just couldn't take it anymore, definitely on the fast track to burnout. So she felt like she didn't have any power in this situation. But this is a good example of how you can always be the thermostat, right? So she had more power than she thought. So one of the things that we did was that she actually kind of, put together like an understanding of kind of why all of this was happening, like kind of an anatomy of the problem, so to speak. And she shared this, created common understanding with her peers and with everyone who was kind of involved with this. She developed a vision. She brought everyone along on the vision, put it in terms of what was in it for them, because of course, they didn't want to be doing more work, taking some of that work back. And she brought everyone together, and they were like, wow, this is much better, actually. all of our workflow and all of our communication and all the way that we're doing this, and people are getting paid now, and because their systems are broken, et cetera. So it's just an example. Here's an example of she learned the ability to kind of engage other people in joint problem solving. She was able to kind of transfer the ownership of the problem where it was just all falling on her, to where everyone thought, yes, actually, this is going to be better for all of us. And she restructured, and so it was better for her. She got much more clear in her role. She was able to delegate and have dinner at weekends with her husband. She was offered a $75,000 retention bonus, and the CEO called a meeting with her and said, she was 4 levels down from the C-suite, and said, get busy because you're on the fast track to the CTO position. So it's just an example of starting off of feeling like she had no power, but actually that when you tap into what the underlying problem is, when you can articulate it in a way that everyone can relate to, you can take what seems like a finite problem and bring an infinite solution. That is an example of using your power for the good of all.
So nice. Thank you. This is Dorie Clark with our weekly interview show, Better, for Newsweek. And we're here with Sharon Melnick, the author of the new book, In Your Power. And Sharon, a great question came in from Miriam. And I think a lot of people probably have experienced this. She wants to know, can you talk a little bit more about how I can be in control, be in my power, but also be balancing empathy? Because if I am going to be stepping up to be more in my power, it may require me to be more assertive. So how do you make sure you don't go too far with this whole in your power business? What would you say to that?
Yeah, thank you so much for this question, Miriam. And actually, this is such a good example of a mindset that we can have about power. That now, when we think of it, it's like a zero-sum game, right? That if I am more assertive, then that means you can't be heard. And actually, the way that we kind of have the most power is by creating a win-win, right? So for all of us to kind of have an abundance mindset, and the way that you can have the most power is by really being clear kind of in yourself in terms of what the outcome that you're going for, what you want, what you need, being really intentional in your communication so that you can also have space to hear what other people need and then kind of problem solve. So, you come up with the solution that is in the best interest of all. And you know why? Because then, Miriam, you are able to leverage and unleash the energies of other people in the service of the vision that you have. So by you being clear and going for it and bringing others along, because Miriam, when you're in your power, you raise everyone around you.
Excellent points. Sharon Melnick, author of In Your Power. We're glad to have you on Newsweek's weekly interview show, Better. We also want to say hi to the amazing friends tuning in from around the world. Christine is here from Denver. We've got Rita Marie back from Ireland. Alicia is here from Berkeley. We have Tracy from Kenya. We've got Ren from Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. We have Ernesto in Miami. Andrea's in the Bahamas. Enrica's in Switzerland. We have Liz from somewhere near Boulder and Denver. Jamie's in Pittsburgh, Lisa's in Charlottesville, Cindy's in Savannah, and Leon's in Apex, North Carolina. We love having every single one of you. And Sharon, a question that I was really curious about, a lot of the discussion around In Your Power is around kind of negative voices in your head, right? That's often what's holding us back. Where does that come from? And if the problem is not necessarily external, or at least not completely external, if part of it's inside, how do we fix that? How do we get out of the negative voices that may be plaguing us a little bit in this regard?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example from my own life. So earlier in my career, I went to a rock concert in Washington, D.C. And as I arrived, the stadium was starting to fill, and there was a cluster of people over to my left and there was one person that I recognized. It was Tipper Gore, who was the wife of the then Vice President, Al Gore. And so without overthinking of it, being confident, I went right over, I stuck up my hand. Hi, I'm Dr. Sharon Melnick. I do research at Harvard Medical School. I help people, be confident and resilient and overcome their childhood experiences. She's interested, so we have a chance to talk. We're having an estrogen fest. Certain point, she turns to her chief of staff and she says, Melissa, would you get Dr. Melnick's contact information? We want to bring her down to the White House to share the policy implications of her research. So, like, wow, pretty cool. I go home, I write up a little something, I send it off. A few weeks later, phone rings. Melissa. So she starts telling me about Tipper's initiatives. They're helping millions of people all around the country. And I'm like, wow, And at a certain point, she pops the question. She says, will you come down to the White House to share the policy implications of your research? So, of course, what do you think I say? Well, of course, I say no. Well, I don't exactly say no, but I say like, well, I'll have to get back to you. I'm not sure about the research. So let me tell you something. I pictured myself around that table at the White House. And I thought, they're going to think that I'm not enough and that I don't know enough. So what I did and what we do is I gave away my power. I prioritized what the contribution I could have made for millions of people because of the way that I evaluated my own self, right? And this is what we do. And, so this came from a narrative, a story that I had created about myself where I thought that I wasn't enough. And many of us have this, right? And part of what it means to be in your power is to have a sense of sovereignty, meaning that you write that narrative, right? And you decide that who you are and not kind of reacting and internalizing what other people are saying about this. And this is very, very relevant for each of us kind of personally and also in terms of like the gender bias, the racial bias it's put on us is that we can internalize and think that it's true about us. And if I could take a moment actually to say that I say a lot more about this in the book, but I think the way that we talk about this in like pop psychology is kind of like, oh, well, my mother was this or my father said this to me. And so, I've always thought this about myself. And I think that's a very disempowering way. That puts all of us out of our power. Like we're doomed. If you had a bully who said you were fat growing up, then the rest of your life you have to think that. No. Actually, the way where that voice comes from is that we actually kind of took it on. It was a coping mechanism that we did. And so if we took it on, we can unlearn it. And why do we do that? Because when people who are important to us, we come to see ourselves through the eyes of people important to us growing up, right? That's how we learn. And if people are showing you maybe that you're not so important to them or telling you that you're not enough or smart enough or whatever it is, what we're going to do as children is we're going to believe them. And we're going to say, I'm going to make you, but whether I agree with it or not, I'm going to make you right. And I'm going to make me wrong. And I'm going to say, I'm not good enough. And we do so for the best, most important of reasons. And why is that? Because it enables us to preserve hope. Because then we can say, something, if I believe that you're right and that you're capable, you'll be able to put food on the table in the morning and keep me as part of the family. And if I don't believe that, if I really believe like you'll never see my needs, you really don't kind of get me, then I'm going to be instantly hopeless. And it's really, it's going to be hard to go on in my life. So we kind of make that deal. And so this story that we tell about ourselves is kind of a calculated coping mechanisms, but it's not quote unquote true about you. And I want each and every one of you to really consider how you took this on and made this mean something about you. And you've been telling that story ever since, but you have an opportunity today to kind of the first day of the rest of your life and to write the new chapter going forward. And I can't wait to hear from you about it.
So empowering. This is terrific. We're here with Sharon Melnick. She's the author of the new book. It's called In Your Power. You can learn more about Sharon. Check out her work at sharonmelnick.com. And if you're enjoying this conversation and you want to make sure you never miss one, we're here every Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, 5 o'clock in London. Go to dorieclark.com. You can sign up, get a free download, get a free self-assessment. You will be added to our email list and you'll get reminders for things like this. So we look forward to having you here every week. And some great questions are coming in, Sharon. People are jazzed about this conversation. Now, Annette has a question, and it is slightly a long one here, but here we go. Basically, the question is, what if a friend is telling you the friend has done something wrong, they've stepped out of integrity, and they say, oh, it's just business. What do you do in a situation like that? You're out of your power. The person has, done some terrible thing. It's also super awkward when it's a friend doing it. So how would you handle a situation like that?
Yeah, thank you, Annette, for your question. So, one of the portals in the book is the portal of powerful truth. So, how you can use your voice, right, to kind of engage with a level of authenticity with other people that kind of moves them to action. So, I think you have an opportunity to share your powerful truth here. And, one of a kind of a script for doing this in a way that makes it really graceful is you can say, you can distinguish between intent and impact. So you could say, my sense from what you're saying is that your intent was this, and I want to share with you the impact on me. And I have a sense that it wasn't your intention, to kind of make me feel this way. But this is how it landed with me. And since we're friends, I want to be able to share this with you. And this is how it's affecting kind of between us. So this is a way for you to stay in your truth and to open up a conversation that can then lead to more transparency and a kind of a coming together. So that's one thing that you can do in the situation. So the idea is that, and there's a lot of strategies in the book about communication where you can say anything that you need to say as long as you say it in a way that can be digested and kind of received by the other person. It's also like Miriam, when you were asking how, it's like you want to present your ideas in a way in terms of what's in it for them. So that way you kind of are unleashing their energy, helping them to get what they want by you getting what you want.
That's great. Sharon Melnick, author of In Your Power. We have time for probably just one more question. And thank you, Sharon, for sharing your great story about being invited to the White House. I love it that you met Tipper Gore at a rock concert. I really hope that it was like secretly a 2 Live Crew concert, because that would be amazing. But her secret life. But anyway, that's fantastic. On the flip side, I want to end with Alicia's great question. She would like to hear about a time that you entered into a specific portal of power during a tense situation. Can you just tell us about a time when you just rocked it and you stepped into that portal for yourself?
Yesterday, today, this morning, I mean, every day, we're stepping into that portal. But I do tell a story in the book, actually, which is this happened right after I handed in the book. And I have a great love of my life. We decided right after to kind of separate because we really want different things. She wants to travel the world with a full-time companion. I want to change the world. So it was kind of a devastating situation, made me feel really kind of brought up all my sense of helplessness and aloneness in the world. And from the very moment that it happened, I started to ask myself, what is my go-to empowering question? How might this be happening for me, not to me? How might this be happening for me, not to me? And to always see beyond the current situation to kind of the infinite sense of possibility that could unfold for your life. And for you, Alicia, and for me, and for every one of us to really own what it is that we want, and to kind of, power is a lifestyle. So as you walk, kind of in the world, you can always bring this to every situation. And so to kind of, to not take it personally, for me to kind of really every day kind of move emotions through my body so that I could stay strong in my nervous system, fill myself out, back up with a sense of calm and objectivity and joy. And that is a way to walk in the world in your power. And to remember that when you're in your power, you raise everyone around you.
That's fantastic. Yes, as Alicia has pointed out, power is a lifestyle. That's right, Sharon Melnick. That's our hashtag for the week. Power is a lifestyle. Let's all aspire to that. So this is Dorie Clark. This is Newsweek's weekly interview show, Better. We are here with this week's guest. Her name is Sharon Melnick. Learn more at SharonMelnick.com. The new book, which you can buy today, is called In Your Power. Sharon Melnick, so great to have you here.
Thank you so much. What a delight.
Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week.